You are listening to the Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and the host of the Weekly Business Hour, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today because we're celebrating. Today's a very, very special day, and I'm going to talk about celebration as I have before later in the show, but it happens to be my birthday, a very important birthday for me. I guess it's important. Some people have told me that, but I'm 65 years young today. I'm a big believer in celebration, as you know. I think companies, individuals, and businesses should always celebrate the great things that happen every day around us. It's very important, but we'll talk about that later. Before we get started, I want to thank our show sponsor, Pearson & Pearson CPA. Pearson & Pearson has been here in the Conroe area for a number of years, located right here in downtown Conroe, and I want to thank them so much for supporting the business community and supporting the Weekly Business Hour. And if you're ever in the need or looking for a good public accounting firm, I encourage you, seek out Pearson & Pearson CPA. Well, we're going to start this week with our thought for the week, celebrating a reminder. And then we have a special guest here in the studio with us, Erin Lucke, the law office of Erin Lucke. Erin's going to talk about her experience in being on your own in business or solo. And I think you'll find an interesting discussion there, especially if you're thinking about going into business for yourself or you're already there and you're saying, what am I doing here all by myself? Also joining us will be Dick Schissler, General Manager of Lone Star Community Radio. He'll update us on the business right here at Lone Star. And then in the expert corner, I'm so pleased to announce that Mr. Sales, otherwise known as Mark Miller, a fellow Silver Fox, will be joining us to continue our discussion of how to improve your efforts as a business owner to sell your business. I'll close out today's show with my Silver Fox tip of the week, Building Your Business Part 2. So I encourage you, sit back, grab your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we talk about business right here on the Weekly Business Hour. And a quick reminder, if you have a question or comment about the show, or even a question about your own business, please send it to me. Send it right here to the station, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Love to get those questions, love to hear from you and what your comments and thoughts are about this show. Well, let's get rolling this morning. Thought for the week, celebrating a reminder. Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's a birthday for me, and nobody needed to remind me of that, though there have been a number of people, my wife and I, family, my children, have all reminded me that I'm getting somewhat old. But really, celebrations are something, and we've talked about it before, that you need to put into your business plan. Celebrating, what is that? What does that mean to you? Well, it means we've got the 4th of July coming up. That's a day of celebration, a great day to celebrate. And I think every business should have some piece of marketing advertising geared to celebrating the 4th of July. It could be one of those sales that we hear about on the television or the radio, as they do in the retail world, but basically just celebrating, because celebrations are so important to your employees, to the people who do business with you, to your vendors. People know that your business is different when you celebrate. Of course, the most important celebrations are the ones that particularly apply to your business. I saw one the other day. Somebody had been in business 10 years, and they celebrated. They sent out some information on the internet, posted it here and there, and just to notify us that they had been in business 10 years. And guess what? It made me take a second look at them and their business and think about, is there a way for myself or my clients to do business with them? So celebrate. Opportunity, success are available to you right in front of you, so seize them when they come along. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our local business leaders on how they have found success right here in Montgomery County. Another reminder, we're on Facebook, and if you haven't gone to Facebook and looked at the Weekly Business Hour page, I encourage you to do it. And I also encourage you to like us. And while you're there, set an alert so that each week on Wednesday when we post the podcast for today's show, you'll be alerted. You can take a look at who was on the show, what we talked about, and see if there's some information possibly there that would benefit you and your business, and can check it out. Well, now we'll check in with Dick, the general manager of Lone Star Community Radio. And Dick, what's going on at Lone Star this week?
I want to let your listeners know, Rick, that the Lone Star Community Radio will be out on location this Sunday on July 2nd at Tejas Bingo We're going to be partnering up with American Legion Post 411 for their free Great Hot Dog giveaway they do every 4th of July time. And so they invite everyone to come join us out on Sunday, July 2nd at Tejas Bingo, south of the station on Fraser, right there between 11 and 2 p.m. They're going to have live music, refreshments. They're going to have a Home Depot Kids Workshop. Join the American Legion and support your local post here in Conroe.
Well, see, folks, there's a celebration right in front of us. And I'm sure this coming weekend and early into the new week with the 4th of July, lots of opportunities to celebrate. So get out and celebrate. And if you can, celebrate with the folks that work with you. Well, this is my favorite part of the show. I say that every week, but it's been true for over 4 years. And that is to talk to our local business guests. Lots of successful business people right here in Montgomery County. And we're blessed to have one in the studio this morning. Erin Lucke, the law office of Erin Lucke. Boy, I just got to get that out, don't I? Erin, I appreciate so much you coming in and visiting with us today.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Well, you're one of the brave souls, I believe. Those are the people that go out and start a business and basically realize it's a business between them and themselves. They're trying to build a practice, in your case, a professional practice. What motivated you to do that in the first place?
Well, I wanted to be close to my family and close to where I lived and close to my son's school, and there wasn't a legal opportunity for me. So I practiced estate planning and probate, and most of the opportunities were downtown. So I decided to open my own practice.
That still took a lot of nerve.
It did. It did, yes.
Now, how long have you been in business for yourself?
A little over 3 years now.
Well, you should be getting to the point you really know what you're doing.
I feel like I do, yes. Yes.
Well, share with us some of the challenges that one faces going into business for themselves, or particularly in a professional practice.
Well, for me, Rick, I moved to the Woodlands, and then about 9 months later, I started my practice. So I was new in town and new with my practice. So that was one of my difficulties, is getting my name out in the community. That's been one of the biggest challenges, because this is an established community in the Woodlands, Conroe area, and there are a lot of estate planning practices that have been here for many years. So that's kind of been my challenge.
Sounds like you really took a risk, because I know a number of solo practitioners, particularly in the legal field, and most of them actually opened shop where they had been working, or new people established in the community. Coming into a brand new community like that and opening up, what were you thinking?
I'm not sure what I was thinking. My dad's an entrepreneur too in Corpus Christi, and so I'm used to knowing that he's a small business owner himself, and that's what I'm used to. So I just thought, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I'm going to give it a try. And I had a lot of support from family and friends too.
So what you're saying, it was the fact that your dad had done it that was really an encourager, because you had an idea of what being in business for yourself was all about.
It was. I'm not sure he would say he would always do that, but it's been great for me so far.
Well, share with us, if you will, some of the places you have found support, primarily in being in business. What kind of support? Where is it out there that you successfully found people, places, books, whatever, to support you?
Well, I went to Texas A&M, and I believe that the Aggie Network is always strong, and it's been very helpful for me. There's some Aggie groups in the local area that I've been a part of, and that's been a great help, just helping me get the word out. I'm part of Network in Action networking group, and that's been very helpful as well. And a couple other women's groups that I've been a part of have been very helpful as well. So, and I have just some clients who've come in the door, and they just keep sending their friends and more friends and more friends. So,
well, typically referrals would probably be the best source of clients or customers, depending on what kind of business you're in. How do you go about developing a referral source? A lot of folks feel like, well, if I take care of the client or the customer, then they're going to refer. But a lot of times there's more to it than that.
Well, there is, but I feel like maybe because I've taken good care of the clients, that they remember me and send their friends, or send their some Sunday school friends or church member friends, and or neighbors. I've gotten clients that are neighbors of people that I've just met, in some of my networking groups. So it's interesting where the clients come from. I mean, I have clients that have come in just recently who I talked to last year, and they said, we're ready to come in. So people remember you if you, I guess, make an impression. So.
Yeah, you have to have that positive impression, and I think you make a wonderful point. It all starts with doing a great job for the client, taking care of the client or customer if you're in another business. You leave them with that positive impression.
Right. And for what I do with doing estate planning and wills, estate planning, probate, and wills, I don't see clients a lot over and over. So it's usually a one-time deal until somebody may pass away. So you do have to do a really good job so they will remember you.
And, one of the things that impresses me is that particular field of law, and I guess there may be some others, but it's a difficult area of the law with the client. I mean, just for people to sit down and think about dying, basically, the future, family, you have to be part psychologist. Or what is the magic?
I think you do have to be kind of part psychologist, a counselor, right? I mean, we do say we're counselors as attorneys, right? So I think I try to just be easy with them. I've heard other attorneys just be kind of abrasive about the subject of death, and it doesn't make it any easier for us because it's a subject we don't want to talk to, talk about. So I think that's I try to kind of ease into it, and we kind of make a little jokes here and there to kind of lighten the mood at times, and I think that kind of helps the situation. We all know we need to talk about it, and once we get this done, we don't have to worry about it for a while. So that's, I think, the positive side.
Kind of get it off the checklist, so to speak.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, let me ask you, prior to going in business for yourself, what was your experience? What was your business or practice experience?
Well, I worked for a couple different firms in the past, and worked in Austin a couple different firms, and it's just a totally different environment. It's kind of nice to have your own schedule and have your own clients, and that's been fun. And it's great to hear a client say that they've had a great experience and then talk to somebody else. So.
Well, and obviously that's a great reward when you get a referral. At least it always was for me. Any kind of referral, somebody says, "Hey, I heard about you and want to do business with you."
Yes.
That's worth its weight in gold, I think.
It's wonderful. Yes.
Well, let me ask you, as we kind of wind down to our first break, somebody who finished, in our case, we're talking law school today, and then they go out and they make a decision either because they can't find an employment opportunity, which is fairly difficult, I understand right now. Mm-hmm. How difficult is for them to come right out of school and go into practice for themselves?
I think that's very difficult. I did have some colleagues who did that, and I admired them for doing it, but I think you need a little experience under your belt before you want to go out on your own, because you're asking questions of somebody anywhere all the time just to get the information you need for your clients. So.
Yeah, I would think that would be next to impossible. So it's an interesting question to ponder. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave that with you right now. Ponder that question. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about being in business yourself, and Erin will share with us some of the things she does to create business and create those referrals. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Pearson & Pearson is a certified public accounting firm located at 400 North Main, Conroe, Texas. The firm was founded in 1989. Our expertise ranges from basic tax to very complex tax, both federal and state, both individual and business, and not-for-profit organizations. We also provide services such as financial audits, reports, and litigation support. Call us at 936-756-2008. That is 936-756-2008. More information can be found online at pearson-pearson.com.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and the host of the Weekly Business Hour. And we're here visiting today with Erin Lucke. She owns her own practice, legal practice, the law office of Erin Lucke. Erin, when we went to break, we were talking about referrals and the importance and also the great reward we feel as a professional or business person in getting a referral from someone. Let's talk a little bit more in general about marketing. What is the most important marketing idea or issue or approach you take in your business to build your business over the last few years?
I believe networking has been the best for me. I've tried some advertising, and that has helped a little bit. It can't hurt. It just gets expensive sometimes, and it's hard to know where to put your dollars, your marketing dollars. But networking has been great. I think for me, doing estate planning and doing probate, I think I have to be in front of people, and then they have to say, "Oh yes, Erin does wills. I need to call her, or I need to have my neighbor call her." And so it's all about FaceTime with people and people learning to trust you. I think so. For me, it's really a personal one-on-one networking type of marketing for me.
You know, you mentioned wills, and that brings up a good question. You know, the statistics on the number of people who have wills versus that who don't. I mean, it's overwhelming how many people just don't have a basic will. Talk to us a little bit, and we'll kind of talk shop for a minute. What's the importance of an individual having a will, and why should they get it done sooner than later?
You know, it's to me, it's kind of like an insurance policy. We don't know if we're going to need it, but we'd rather have it than not have it if we do. And some people say, I don't need one yet, and I always kind of joke with them, well, how do you know? But a will is something that you do need to get done sooner because you just don't know what life's plans are for you. And I think the incapacity documents, like the powers of attorney, are equally important. We're all living longer. We're living longer with dementia and Alzheimer's and other memory issues, and we've got to get those incapacity documents done. I mean, things get really messy if they don't. I mean, things get very expensive for your family and very time-consuming and just very emotional.
You know, one of the things that pops in my head when I think about a will is, as individuals, if we go out and we build what I call loosely an estate, in other words, we make money and we've put some aside, or we own property, whatever it is, and then we really have a right to designate where it goes. And when you don't have a will, typically you lose complete control of all that work, your life's work, on where you want it to go.
You do lose that. I mean, if you didn't want it to go to your crazy brother, it's going to go to your crazy brother now. But yes, it is important. We've worked really hard for these things, and we should be able to say where we want them to go, and we need to put them down on paper. We need to talk to an attorney about it. I wouldn't say go online and get your will done online. I don't recommend that. But talk to an attorney, and they can help you get your customized will done or your trust done. So I think it's very important. I say it all the time, but I've seen the other side of it, and it's really, really bad when you don't get it done.
Yeah, nothing can be worse than not only passing on suddenly, if that happens, not only is what you had in your mind not going to happen or could not, it creates a mess for everybody that's left behind, scrambling for, okay, what did he or she think?
Right. And when somebody passes away, that's going to be a really emotional time for us anyway. So adding that to it just really makes it unnecessarily hard.
You know, one of the things people tell me when they might talk to me as a counselor about doing a will is they're kind of scared about the process. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the process. It's not that bad.
It's really not that bad. And my clients say that at the end every time. Oh, that wasn't that bad at all. And I said, I told you it wouldn't be. But what I typically do with my clients is we talk about the different options, whether they want to go the living trust route or a will route. And then once we decide that, they fill out a questionnaire. I get some documents drafted for them. They review them. They look okay. They come back in, get them signed. They put them away in their safe deposit box or their fireproof safe, and they're done for a few years. So, I mean,
well, and you bring up a good point there. No, I'm sorry. If for a few years, this is a process depending on how long we live, and like you pointed out, we live longer, but a will is not for 20, 30, 50 years. You need to check back because, right, your estate has changed.
It can change, and sometimes you don't think about, oh, I forgot I've named that person as my executor. I'd really like to change that to somebody else. And yes, it's important to look at it, I'd say every 5 years or so. Just get it out, dust it off, and check to see if everything you want is still in there.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's one of those little things we put in the tickler file for 5 years. Well, a client comes to you, you're on your own, like so many attorneys, and they say, okay, you're by yourself. Is that a problem? The fact that it's just you and not all these other attorneys and support staff and all these people, how do you deal with that?
Actually, my clients really haven't asked why I'm on my own. I think they say, wow, you're on your own. That's good. So, I think for me, it's been good to be on my own. I get to call my clients back. I mean, if they've got a question, they get to talk to me. They don't talk to an assistant in my office. They get to get the answer right then and there, or if not, faster, I think. So I think that's an asset for us solo attorneys to be accessible to our clients.
I think that's a very important thing, and I hope people hear that because, and I'm not giving a commercial because I'm not allowed to do that, but I recently was involved in an estate and had the responsibilities of administering things. In law firm, there were 5, 6 different people on every bill. So I didn't have one person to talk to. In fact, I got to a point I didn't know who to call when I had a question, and it gets very confusing. And I think personal service, this is me as a business person, a mentor, is one of the biggest things any of us can do, regardless of where we are, whether we're at the top of a large business or whatever, is to serve our clients as personal as we can.
I agree.
I think that's something that as a solo practitioner, you really have a leg up on a larger firm. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. How do you push that idea to me? I mean, if you're talking to me and I'm interviewing lawyers, I've just met you, and I mean, what is unique? What is your, as they call it, unique selling proposition for me to consider using you over these other folks that I have an opportunity to talk with?
Well, I really listen to your situation, and I want to make sure we get your concerns met. I've had some clients who come in, and they come in maybe 2 or 3 times because they're really not sure what they want to do, and we just keep talking it out until they're happy with what they're going to have done. I'm not going to just put something together and say you'll like it and you'll be fine with it. I want them to leave happy and satisfied with what we've gotten done, and I want them to feel like they're not concerned anymore.
Speaking, I touched on in which I'm a business mentor. Have you made use of mentors as you've built your business?
I have, yes.
And how important has that been to you?
It's been very important. It's just a great relief sometimes just to say, what do you think about this? Am I doing this right? And it's great to have somebody to bounce ideas off and to take advice from. I mean, I'm open to advice anytime from seasoned attorneys and other people that can help me. So I'm happy to take people's advice when it comes to small businesses and starting up my own.
Well, at this point, I just got to ask you the question. If you had to do it all over again, would you do it?
I think I would, yes.
Anything
yes.
you'd do different?
I'll let you know. I'm not sure yet. I got to get a little farther down the road. But it's been a great adventure, and I've enjoyed building my practice.
What has been the biggest reward for being in business for yourself and building your own practice?
I think it really has just been my clients and seeing that they're happy, and just when they pass me on to somebody else that they know, that makes me feel that much better. I think, oh wow, you really did think I did a great job. And so I've had several clients like that they just keep passing on more and more folks that they know, and that's just a wonderful feeling and makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing.
One of the questions I ask a lot of business people, particularly when they're engaging me, and we were talking about customer satisfaction and being personal with your customers, every once in a while somebody's not going to be happy with what we do, mm-hmm. whether it's our fault or not. Mm-hmm. And I think in your field there's probably an opportunity for it more than in other fields because there's a lack of understanding of exactly. So you go through all this process, you spend all this time, and then I wake up one night and I say, oh, she didn't tell me that, or yeah, da, da, da. How do you handle that challenge of somebody coming back and say, I'm really not happy? How do you deal with that unhappy customer, in your case, client?
If I had an unhappy customer or client, it's really, I think we can go back through and talk about, well, here's what we did, and this is why we did it. And usually, I'm able to explain if somebody has some question. Usually, more than I've had unhappy clients, it's been somebody like questioning, like, oh, did we put that in there like I asked? Oh, yes, it's right here. Look at Article 4. And so sometimes it's just an oversight or a misunderstanding. So really, but yes, sometimes there are people that are not, but sometimes it's not a great fit for the two of us, I mean, that hasn't really happened very often at all, but once in a while, it's just a matter of maybe a different situation. But I've been able to handle those if they do come up. It's usually, like I said, just a misunderstanding.
Well, I've got to ask you then as a follow-up, because this is another tenet that have you ever fired a client?
Yes, I have. And, but we've had discussions we've gone through some different situations and explained why it wasn't going to work for us.
And I happen to believe, I'm a big believer in that you got to find the fit. and
is.
it's nothing
is.
personal at all.
No, it is not. It's just not going to work for us. And that happens once. I mean, it's happened once. So it
Once
doesn't
in
happen.
3 years, you got a pretty good track record. I know a lot of people in business, any kind of business, and just sometimes there's not a way to work. There's not a match. The processes are different. The systems are.
Right. And I like to be able to work with a lot of different kinds of people. I mean, I used to teach a long time ago. I worked in human resources, and so I've worked with a lot of different kinds of people, and so I pride myself on being able to work with a lot of people, and I enjoy people, so I like learning about them.
Well, if someone's listening to this program either today or on our podcast, and they're considering going into business for themselves, maybe not a professional business like you're in, what is the single most important advice you would give them to consider as they make this decision?
I think I would check to see what other businesses are around, like how many other businesses of your type are around, and I would look into how they're successful, and even see if they will meet with you. I've met with people who have been successful in doing solo practice, and I think that's been very helpful just to learn. And people are very helpful. They're more helpful than you think they are, even if you think there might be your competition. They're very helpful in having you be successful as well. So, and I think just getting out there, meeting as many people as you can, letting them know what you do is important and why it's important. And I think that'll get you somewhere.
You know, I love your advice about that. You've got to ask. People will help you. That's one of the things I've found in life. One of the things I always try to do is thank people, because when you thank them or you approach them and you need something, you need advice, and you thank them and say, I need help. That word alone, help, thank you, they're all in the same category. It works.
It does.
It works.
It does.
There's no doubt about it. Well, Erin, if people are interested in talking to you about your experiences or talking to you about possibly engaging you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say they can call me. My office number is 832-449-8915, or my email address is Erin, ERIN, at Erin Lucke Law, and so it's Erin and LUCKE law.com.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our chat with Erin Lucke. Again, someone who really sucked it up, as I say, and took a risk and went into business for themselves 3 years into her success. Again, Erin, thank you so much for taking time to join us today. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our break at the bottom of the hour. And when we come back, as promised earlier, Mr. Sales, Mark Miller, is going to join us and talk about selling as an owner in a business. So please stay with us.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out ourlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Pearson & Pearson is a certified public accounting firm located at 400 North Main, Conroe, Texas. The firm was founded in 1989. Our expertise ranges from basic tax to very complex tax, both federal and state, both individual and business, and not-for-profit organizations. We also provide services such as financial audits, reports, and litigation support. Call us at 936-756-2008. That is 936-756-2008. More information can be found online at pearson-pearson.com.
You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. Well, I appreciate you listening to today's show, and I want to thank you. And again, I want to mention that our show sponsor, Pearson & Pearson CPA, located right here in downtown Conroe. Thank you so much to them for being our show sponsor, and I encourage you, if you're looking for a CPA, an accountant, someone to help you with your financial documents and whatnot, taxes, things, everything under the sun that accountants do, they do. I encourage you to contact Pearson & Pearson CPA. And remember that you and your company can be a sponsor on the Weekly Business Hour as well. You just need to send me an email, rick@irlonestar.com, because we'd love to talk to you about being a sponsor for our show. Well, today in our Expert Corner, as I've been promising you, we have a very special guest, as I call him Mr. Sales, Mark Miller, a fellow Silver Fox and someone who has a number of years, almost quite as many years as I am old today, in teaching, training, sales, and sales management. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate the ancient alien introduction.
Well, just so you understand, I'm 65 today, so I know you hadn't been out there that long. But you've been out there a long time, and you've done a wonderful job. And I've had clients that have worked with you, and I've worked with you. You just understand sales. And I appreciate you joining us with today. Let's talk about, if we can, a little bit today about having a prospecting plan. In particular geared to owners of small businesses, because as we know, the owner oftentimes is the chief salesman as well as the chief bottle washer and everything else in the business. Talk to us a bit about building a prospecting plan, if you would.
Well, that's a great point, Rick, that, small business owner is everything, including, sweeping the floor on the way out. And they spend a lot of their time trying to get business. Then they do whatever business it is. Then they don't have anything to do, so they spend more time getting business, and then they do the business, and it's a vicious sort of up and down cycle. So what a prospecting plan does is sort of level those peaks and valleys out. And, it's that old thing your mom told you, just do a little bit of something every day, right? So whatever it is, a little bit every day, whether it's asking for referrals, getting on the phone, sending some emails, something that you do every day, regardless of how busy you are.
Well, one of the important things, and the thing I see that a lot of people, a vast majority of the people that I work with, and people I've talked to and interviewed, they don't put a plan together of any sort. In other words, they don't have any accountability or goals so they can step back and know what's working and what's not. Planning's got to be part
Rick,
of it.
And the reason for that is once you set goals, you become responsible, right, for meeting the goals, and then you're accountable. And I think, if there's anything folks could avoid, it's responsibility and accountability. But the truth is that nothing changes until someone takes personal responsibility and becomes accountable for the next step. So you're exactly right. Goals are absolutely important.
One of the things that you and I've talked about before is that when you put a prospecting plan together as part of your sales plan, the expectations from the various ways to prospect, cold calling, referrals, kind of give us a rundown on what statistics exist to help us better understand where we should spend our time and or some money.
Let's start with cold calling because, anytime I hear people tell me, "Oh, Mark, I love the cold call," I don't think they're telling me the exact truth or they've never done it. So I don't think anybody likes to do it, but it's still effective even in this day of cell phones and, caller ID and whatever. People will tell me, "Look, Mark, I'm no good at it." And I'll say, "Well, how many calls have you made?" And they'll say, "Oh, I don't know, 10, 15. Well, here are the naked facts. It's for all the calls you make, it's somewhere between 0.5 and 2% of the folks that you actually contact will ever do business with you. So until you've done 100 or so cold calls, maybe 200, you don't really know. So it's an inexpensive thing to do, but the rewards are slight. Now, saying all that, last year about 40% of our new business came from cold calls. So.
Well, you make an interesting point, and I agree with the psychology. Nobody wants to do cold calling, especially if you start a business, unless you've had experience and been in sales, and probably even then you have a reluctance factor. But the fact is, as you made the point, cold calling today still is effective, and it is very inexpensive relative to some other things. What about referrals and introductions, some of the other ways that we can pick up some prospects?
Yeah, and let's put some definitions around it, because, some folks think a referral is they'll say, "Hey, Mark, you ought to call, Joe Blow at ABC Company because he really needs your stuff." Well, that's really not a referral. That's another version of a cold call. So when someone says, "Hey, you ought to call, Joe Blow," it's still in that 0.5 to 2% range. What really is when the referring person has talked to Mr. Blow and said, hey, look, I know this guy, Mark Miller. He can really help you with your sales plan. Here's what he did for me. I think you ought to talk to him. What if I have him call you next Tuesday at 10? Would you take his call? Now, that's a referral, okay? And when you get that, then the numbers jump up to something like 25%. And so that's what you're really looking for. That's a huge increase from the 0.5 to 25%. I'm not really good at math, but it's a lot, maybe 500% increase. So,
it's amazing because that's really an introduction. I mean, that's like being out in public with somebody, and you meet someone else and you introduce them.
Right.
I don't see a lot of that happen in the real world in the way you described it, where someone is willing to set me up or connect me. Am I missing something, or is that going on out there?
Well, it does. If you teach the people who want to refer you, your past clients, what a referral would look like. Hey, I'd really appreciate whatever referral you give me, but here's how I'd like it to look. If you could, talk to whoever, see if there's a good time for me to call, and let's set that up, and I'll call him. You set the time, and no matter what, I'll give him that phone call when you say. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It just takes a little education on all of our potential referrers, right, to tell them what we think it should look like.
Well, to me, the amazing thing is that you point out, and the data shows, and I'm sure numerous studies, that 25 to 50% of those quote-unquote prospects that you're introduced to like that are going to become your clients or your customers. That's an amazing close rate.
Right, and what really gets it toward the top of the 50%, Rick, is if the referee, so whoever and Mr. Blow and you can have a cup of coffee, play golf, lunch, breakfast, whatever it is, where the three of you are together and the referring person is telling the referee just how great you are. That's typically a 50% close. I mean, you really have to mess that up. And my advice is to everyone who gets in that situation, don't feel compelled to say anything. let the referring person do the selling for you, because whatever you say can only mess it up. Just thank you. Yes, he's right. Whatever. But some folks just can't help themselves, and they want to interrupt and tell the potential customer all about themselves, where it's much better if the referring person does it, because we all know whatever the selling person says is a lie, and whatever the referring person says is gospel. So let them preach.
Well, I would have one little add-on piece of advice. Be sure, if you're in that position, which to me is a wonderful place to be if you're trying to sell your services or product, is be sure to pick up the lunch check or pay for the round of golf.
That's the other thing I tell folks. I said, look, if your boss or whoever won't approve that expense, have them call me.
I love it.
Absolutely. There's no better use of expense money than that. None.
Another source of new business prospecting, and I think people look at this typically a little bit differently, and you and I have talked about, business from existing customers or clients, 80 to 90% close, and which is, if someone's doing business with you and you've built your relationship, that wouldn't be a surprise. But the fact is, and you added this proviso, your client is your competitor's best prospect. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's exactly right. Let's face it, whether you're the pool guy, the carpenter, the sales trainer, whoever's on your client's list, every other sales trainer, pool guy, carpenter wants that person as a client, because you've already qualified them for money and need, because they bought something from you. So they obviously are qualified. They obviously have the money to spend on that. So if you were looking for a prospect list, it would be all your competitors' customers, because they already have spent money for that, and they obviously have a need for it. So a couple things happen here. Sometimes we get customers and we forget about them. We just sort of, I hate to say this, take them for granted. It's almost like the trout fisherman that catches a trout and puts it in a little basket and really doesn't pay any attention to it until the game warden comes by. And that's what we do with customers sometimes. We got to continually contact them. And I don't care what it is. The air conditioner guys are great at that. You get that, first sales call, and they fix it in the middle of summer, and then they're saying, well, it's time for that service contract because they've sold the repair. You're happy because it's cool when it's 90 degrees. What better time to sell the service contract? Where, hey, you get 2 free checkups, or you get to the top of our list, whatever. I mean, why wouldn't you? So anything that you can find to sell. I was in the instrumentation business, spare parts. We always wanted to make sure our guys had enough parts to keep our stuff going. Service, tune-ups, oil changes, whatever. Some little thing just so you keep touching them with an offer of something else you can provide.
Well, Mark, you've made some excellent points today, and I hope our listeners can pick up on those and obviously use them to improve their sales, close ratios, and whatnot. If people are interested in talking to you a little bit more about this, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, they can email me at mark@strategiesforsuccessinc.com, or they can. I'm hesitant to give my phone number out over the radio, but I will. It's 713-256-9099. Give me a call.
Well, Mark, again, thank
Text
you,
me.
Mr. Sales. Can't beat it when it comes to sales management. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Rick, thank you, and happy birthday, man.
Hey, well, thanks very much. We're celebrating. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our final break for the day. I hope you got something, again, out of that presentation by Mark Miller. Wonderful ideas there. I want to encourage you to stay with us. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about building your business, part 2. Be right back at you.
Pearson & Pearson is a certified public accounting firm located at 400 North Main, Conroe, Texas. The firm was founded in 1989. Our expertise ranges from basic tax to very complex tax, both federal and state, both individual and business, and not-for-profit organizations. We also provide services such as financial audits, reports, and litigation support. Call us at 936-756-2008. That is 936-756-2008. More information can be found online at pearson-pearson.com.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. And we're here to the final segment of our show, and I want to talk a little bit more about building your business. Last week I talked about building your business, and I entitled Part 1. This week is a continuation of that discussion, because so many times, and I've had some discussions this past week based on the presentation I made last week as my Silver Fox tip of the week, from people who said, it's so many times they've seen, and these are folks that do what I do and otherwise, that people start businesses. And I'm talking about when you have the opportunity, you sit down, you spend some time or a lot of time trying to figure it out, analyze it, build your plan, look at the strategy. As Erin suggested earlier, you reach out for people to help. Even if you're going to be a competitor, you'll be amazed the kind of feedback you got. But so many people don't really spend enough time putting their plan together. And again, I'm not talking about the formal plan so much as really building the business. How am I going to build this business? And what steps, what things do I really need to do? So first of all, I encourage you to go, if you're interested in this and you're getting ready to start a business, or if you're already in business and been in business for a period of time, to go back and listen to last week's program and look at some of the steps and think about, did you do this? And perhaps even if you're already in business, you're a mature business, maybe you can back up and look at some of these things, because literally they can change the direction of the business. They make sure that you and your business are a good fit. That's the first thing. We talked about that extensively last week. And this was the idea that you build a personal profile. And that happens to be a document that's available that was put together initially by a good friend, Monty Pendleton, a Silver Fox, puts this together, and it's used all over the country in even colleges and universities. But it's a tool called the Personal Profile, and you put this together, and once you complete it and answer the questions on there, it gives you a great idea or direction for what you as an individual, your needs, your thoughts, your wants, your families, of what kind of business you should be looking at. And that is so important. And sometimes it's not the business that maybe would make you the most money. So it really gives you a chance, if you're interested, to find out where the best fit might be, not so much a particular business or a particular industry, but the kind and type of business. And let's talk about that. You know, one of the things, and I mentioned this in my blog this week, is to talk about which business type are you going to use, you know, and we talked about that a little bit last week. And the idea being is, well, should I go into business for myself? Should I get a partner? Should I buy a franchise? Should I buy an existing business? I mean, these are basic choices that typically are made at the beginning of a business. This is made by mature businesses as well, because they've reached a point and they want to expand the business, go into a related area. Well, you can go out and buy an existing business. This takes place all the time, every day, particularly in the Fortune 500 world, if you will. They buy a business not just for what it'll add to earnings, but they want to buy the technology. They want to buy the people. They want to buy the best idea that this company's working on. So the reason they buy a business can be varied. It can be many reasons. The same thing for you. You want to start a business or you want to buy a business. It just all depends on who you are, where you are, and of course, what kind of funding you have, and we'll touch on that. So you kind of get to this other point too. Another great question to answer is, what is it that I'm going to be in business? Am I going to try to create a business around this great idea that I have? In other words, something just totally new. Well, that requires a different kind of analysis of putting together your plan, your business plan, to the things you think about. I mean, are you really just the idea person, or do you have the desire deep down and the tools and the understanding to build a business just on an idea, an intangible? You got to think through that. Again, this gets back to fit. Or are you just seeking to improve? You know, most businesses that are started are seeking to improve on an existing business, an existing industry. Main Street's full of them. I mean, how many dry cleaners, how many hardware stores? But people who go into business, hopefully, are seeking to improve. They're going to make themselves unique, just like Erin Lucke was talking about earlier. You've got to be unique. As she mentioned, there are lots of estate planning attorneys out there. So you're going to run in and just jump in because you think there's a lot of business, or are you going to go in, which I think is the right way, because you've got something unique. You have something to offer that when you go into the marketplace and you begin to send your message and pass your message and deliver your message about who you are, what your business is, people will come to you and want to do business with you. Not because you've got that great personality that we know you have, but because you have something unique to offer them. And that in itself is a subject on its own. But this is the kind of thinking that you need to go through, preferably before you sign on the dotted line, so to speak, where you invest the money that you have before you sign the lease, whatever, that you know this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, and most importantly, I believe this is what I'm really, really well suited for to be in this kind of business. So let's talk about some of the other things that can come up along the way. And I think there are things like funding. Where are you going to get the funds? I mean, this is kind of a cut and dry thing, but there's a lot written about it. Should you use your credit card? That's one of the ones that sets off a red flag for me. But people do it, and people have successfully done it, and they've paid the credit card back. So, but it's a last resort. Do you have some money that you've saved as part of your future and being in this business? Do you have money you're going to borrow? Who are you going to borrow it from? Family? That's got its own set of challenges. Typically, it's very difficult to go to a traditional lender, such as a bank, and borrow money to start a business. You're in a mature business, you have assets, that's usually an easier road. There are venture capitalists out there. We read about that all the time, but that's a very small percentage of businesses to start. The key to me on capital and having the money to start your business, you got to have money to sustain your business. And you need to think about that up front. You need to address that issue. You need to put down on paper as part of your planning process. And again, just to remind you, when I say planning, I'm not necessarily talking about pen on paper or the computer. I'm just talking about, okay, we're going to go through, Erin's been in business, she mentioned to us, 3 years. She's had sustainability. She had funds set aside to be there. So these are some of the other issues, more of the cut and dry. Just do me a favor. Make sure that you and your business are a good fit, because if you are and everything else is in place, you can build the most successful business in the world for you and your family. And that's really what's important when we get to the end of the day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the show and you've gotten something out of it. And I encourage you to put down in your calendar for next Monday to join the show at 11 o'clock here on IR Lone Star Radio. But most of all, I encourage you one thing. Be sure that until next week, and as we head into this case, a holiday week, keep your focus on what counts on your business. Look forward to seeing you and talking with you next week. Take care.
Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show was recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.